to another episode of Way Back Wrestling Mania. As always, I'm your host, Adam, and with me is my co-host, Donnie, the Emerald Enthusiast. Donnie?
Hey, what's up, wrestling fans? It's the EST of the Green Lantern fandom, the biggest, the loudest, and quickly becoming the grayest. It's the Emerald Enthusiast.
That's a good one. That may be your best intro yet. I like that. That was good.
When I say biggest, I mean in terms of like physicality. There are plenty of Green Lantern podcasters and fans out there who are just as enthusiastic as me. So.
Yeah, but I don't know if they have such a nice collection as you do.
I think. Thank you.
I think your collection could be rivaled. And by the way,
Daryl Banks said the same thing. So.
Yeah. And the Emerald Enthusiast could be a good wrestling name if you think about it. So there's that. Right. I'm just plain old me. I got as angry as a professional wrestler the other day because the playoff season is in the NHL, and my captain, who's behind me, is injured because of some French-Canadian shenanigans. Mm-hmm. But I want to keep my blood pressure in check, so I'm not going to bring that up. But I got him in the behind me and show of solidarity and support, and hopefully I don't turn into a Blue Hawk tonight when the game is on.
Well, I want to say, just like Edge and Adam, I'm also a Leafs fan, and yes, I was ready to do a run-in the other night too. So.
Well, you know what? It was funny because Edge calls him the Rated R superstar. There was a lot of Rated R going on Thursday night in terms of language.
Yeah.
So I'm the Rated R superstar when it comes to watching. There we go. That's what I'm going to call it. Edge, I'm stealing your name if you're not watching the show, but if you are, there it is. Yeah, so as we promised, we're going to do these more often, mainly for the pay-per-views. And I'm choking, but aside from that, we're going to do our thoughts on WrestleMania Backlash, which was the most recent pay-per-view. So Donnie, get us started.
Well, it started with an opening by Batista, some really good voice work by Batista. Yeah. That was part of the cross promotion that yielded both positives and negatives here. Uh-huh. I don't have a problem with cross promotion. If you were to walk into this room now, you'd see a shelf full of Walking Dead comics. I love zombie material, zombie stories, but the way it was handled within this show after this was not good, and we'll get to that later. Yeah. But I will say WrestleMania Backlash, it's a really effective way, first of all, calling it that I thought was a stroke of genius, to continue continue the momentum that WWE had coming out of WrestleMania, which I thought was extremely positive.
Yeah. I like the name. I think whatever pay-per-view, I think that should be a continuing tradition. Mm-hmm. And so I like the branding there. And overall, I think it was a good pay-per-view. I mean, can you even call it that anymore? I mean, Peacock.
I don't know what else to call it other than the big event, but I'm just so used to calling it pay-per-view until there's another word established. What else do we call it?
Come on, Vince, come up with something. Tell us what you want us to call it.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe Triple H should come up with something because
maybe that'll eventually get added to this list of words, things like wrestling that Vince evidently doesn't like. He prefers sports entertainment and medical facility to hospital. So, okay. That's again, you will never hear somebody say the word hospital. If you listen closely, it's always medical facility.
Does he not like?
He does not like the word hospital.
Why?
I do not know.
I mean, I don't like being in a hospital, but the word is you know what I mean? Like,
there was a list circulating not too long ago of a number of words that Vince tells performers not to say on his shows. One of them was hospital. So
he's a weird individual. I hear he doesn't like sneezing either. So if God forbid,
I've heard that. Yes.
God forbid anybody has allergies in the WWE. They're in the verge of getting fired if they sneeze.
Yeah. But they will end up in a medical facility, not a hospital.
But listen, the best thing is he won't allow you to sneeze, but he allows things like the Kiss My Ass Club. Go figure.
Right. Yeah, because that was hygienic. Anyway.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So we open up with the triple threat for the the Raw Women's title. That is Charlotte versus Asuka versus Rhea Ripley. So the first thing I noticed, and I have to say this, and I want to make the point here, I'm just making this observation about them as athletes, okay? Sometimes, most fans of wrestling are male fans, and they get sometimes a little over the line as far as, describing female wrestlers. I just want to say this as athletes. Charlotte looks like she's a little leaner, and I don't know whether that is something that was planned, maybe for cardio, or whether that was an effect of her COVID diagnosis. But she looks leaner to me than she has been in the past. As far as on the flip side of that, Rhea Ripley looks like she has actually gained some muscle mass. It looks like she's trying to, be as intimidating looking as possible. So I look, as opposed to like 6 months ago, she's gained a lot in her like shoulders and arms.
Yeah.
And then, Asuka, she's just Asuka. She's like the Energizer Bunny. Yeah. She comes out and elevates every match that she's in. So what did you think of the match? So
just to echo your point, I totally understand why you're saying that. You're not being disparaging in any way. And I'll add, just to add, me and having lists and this and that. I just want to point out that given their new looks, I want to clarify just for the sake of, everybody's on the same page, everybody knows where we're coming from. Both Charlotte and Rhea Ripley are still very much on the
Multiverse Wives list. Yes, Omniverse, right. Yeah. My mistake. I just want to say, you've never gone over the line, but being on a lot of wrestling message boards and stuff, I've seen in particular.
I would never say anything.
Yeah.
Derogatory.
Yeah, very, very misogynistic.
To me, a beautiful woman is a beautiful woman.
Right.
And there's ways to appreciate her looks without being excuse my French, a jackass. Right. And the Multiverse Wife list is just a lot of fun. Right. That's what it is. And I'm, stealing a page from Jericho's book. But yeah. But they both look like very toned athletes. They're in very good shape, both of them, and Asuka too.
I just noticed that about Charlotte, that she does have a different look than she's had in the past.
Yeah,
and again, that could be intentional. It could be that she's trying to, ease her way back in, and she thought, maybe leaning up a little bit, getting a little bit lighter might help.
Yeah, whatever's healthier for her, good, good on her.
Sure.
But the match itself, I mean, it's a great match. All three performers are very capable. In-ring talents. The thing that really strikes me overall is the strength of Rhea Ripley. Like, she's a powerhouse.
Yeah. Rhea Ripley is not afraid to, and I don't know if she has her own gym, but if she goes to a gym, she's not afraid to go lift with the heavy lifters.
She can probably lift the guy over her head.
Yes. She looks incredibly strong.
So. I think there was a move where, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a spot where she gave a suplex. She was on the inside of the ring, and I believe it was Asuka that was on the outside.
Yeah.
And she suplexed her back in, which I thought was pretty impressive.
Yeah, she lifts them easily. This was a very hardworking, stiff match. It was a little slow at the start, but it picked up as it went on, gained momentum. Yeah. And I do like the spot. There was a spot near the end where all three of them, they were on their knees just throwing haymakers at one another.
Yeah.
And I like this idea that this match was kind of a war of attrition, that it went on and on and on, and it was determination that decided the eventual winner. I like how that played out.
I also look. Asuka had the championship for a long time. I don't see her being a permanent fixture in the title picture, at least the singles title picture.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, she should take a break. She's been in there again. Was she not champion for over a year?
Yes. And she was a tag champ not so long ago, so it could be that she goes back there. So
right. I like the overall feud with Charlotte and Rhea. I know fans are in the process of booing Charlotte, and some of it is because of the character that she's portraying. Some of it is because they're just tired of seeing her in the title picture. But let's be honest, WWE is going to get her past her father's record.
Yes.
I mean, if you don't believe that that's going to happen, you're naive.
Yes.
It's going to happen, and I think it should.
And remember, some of her dad's best work was when he was boisterously booed.
Yeah.
So
no, but I think booing her for the sake of you're tired of seeing her in the title picture. Let them get her this record. They're going to do it. Let them just do it.
And I'll say this: I still think she's in her prime. I don't think there's any reason to rush her out of the title picture.
Well, why would you? She's what, in her early 30s?
I don't exactly. Yeah, I don't exactly know, but yes, she is. I don't know that we've seen her best yet.
Yeah.
There still may be a peak out there.
And I'd like to see her back as a tag team champion. Maybe not necessarily with Asuka, but, with somebody else. I could see that.
She's 35, so there are many years, I think, left for her to perform at a high level.
I mean, how old is Bobby Lashley, in his 40s?
Bobby Lashley's 47.
Right, so...
excuse me, 44. Edge is 47.
Right, so that's what I mean. Why would you push... Why would they be trying to push Charlotte to pasture just yet? Right.
And again, that name is one of the biggest names that will ever be associated with wrestling, whether it's her dad or her.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, with the name Flair, you know that as long as she's capable of performing, like she's a good in-ring performer, they're going to get her to that record.
I liked how she said on Raw a couple weeks ago, she used the phrase, be fair to Flair. That was something that in the mid-'90s, her dad, a lot of fans were out there saying that, if you remember, Hulk Hogan was going over Flair left and right, and people were saying Hulk needs to be fair to Flair, and they eventually integrated that into the show.
Yeah, it was good. I like that callback. That was good. So I mean, and I like the way it ended, where Rhea gets the win.
Rhea hits the Riptide after Charlotte hits Asuka with the big boot.
Yeah,
and Charlotte fell off the ring apron, and Asuka, she kind of staggered back towards Rhea Ripley, who hits the Riptide.
Yeah.
And I will say this, too. After the match was over, and I put this on Twitter, there was a wonderful camera angle showing Rhea up on the ropes holding the belt, and the camera angle was right over Charlotte's shoulder, and she's pointing at the belt, saying, I'm going to climb the mountain, and Rhea Ripley daring her to climb the mountain.
Yeah, it's good build up for the continuation of this rivalry. I think it's going to go all the way to SummerSlam, personally. And I think Charlotte's going to take the title at SummerSlam.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, that makes sense.
And if that does happen, I don't think it takes anything away from Rhea.
And this could also be a situation where this is a long feud where Charlotte gets the belt and then Rhea gets it back.
Wasn't it Flair and Steamboat had like 4 or 5 matches over the course of a year? Like, why can't we have rivalries like that again? I think it's a great idea.
The first 2 Starcades, the second and third Starcade was Flair versus Dusty both times. They feuded for years and years.
Yeah, so I mean, if you get a good feud and you can stretch it out, and it creatively makes sense, do it.
Yep, I agree. So I'm going to give this match 4 out of 5.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I really, my favorite spot was probably the suplex off the top rope. The three of them, where the 3 of them were on the rope. And was it who? I don't know who delivered the move. Was it Asuka? I think.
No, I thought it was Rhea. Can't remember.
It was Rhea. Yeah, she that's right. Sorry.
Again, she's incredibly powerful, and again, I want to make that point. I think it's wonderful that we have an incredibly powerful woman. I like her. I like Jade Cargill over in AEW. Right. So yes, I like again, both male and female. I like the different body types. And I think it makes wrestling interesting.
I like the spot where Charlotte tried to pin both of them. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Didn't quite get it done like Roman did though.
No.
Yeah.
So
after this match, we get a funny promo from Miz and Morrison, possibly setting up some friction down the road. We know that Miz is injured now. He actually has a torn ACL, so he's going to be on the shelf for a while.
Yeah.
But I wondered if maybe this set up a little bit of a, just the teaser of a feud if he comes back.
I could see it. I could definitely see it. I think.
Miz just seemed a little annoyed with him.
But who do you think turns face if that happens?
I think Miz turns babyface because of the injury. It's easy to turn somebody babyface when they come back from an injury.
Yeah, and I think Miz is the type of guy that you could root for as a babyface, or
babysit,
or hate as a heel. I think he works both ways. Morrison, and I mean this not in a literal, him as a human being, but Morrison has that douchebag kind of inherent, vibe to him.
What's his new Johnny Drip Drip is what he's calling himself.
It's ridiculousness is what it is, but his wife is Canadian, and so I gotta,
Yeah. So, and these are the kind of wonderful observations you will hear here on the Multiverse Musings, Vidcast, and the Multiverse Musings Podcast Network, available on iTunes and Podbean.
He's the master of the shameless plug.
So,
if you had a finishing maneuver, it should be called the shameless plug.
The shameless plug, yeah.
I don't know what exactly it would be, because there could be some weird connotations there.
I would hold up a sign and then deliver it. So that's what I'll do. Yeah.
All right.
So, okay, on to the next.
You'd have a steel chair spray painted with our podcast number.
There you go, right.
and then bash somebody over the head with it.
Yeah, I would deliver it and then hold it up to the camera. So there you go.
Yeah, man.
All right, so the next match we have the tag belts for Robert Roode and Dolph Ziggler against Dominic and Rey Mysterio. So Dominic, a.k.a. Direct Message, which is what I always think of because he has DM on his ring gear.
Yeah.
So they're going after the SmackDown tag belts, but the angle here was that Roode and Ziggler attacked Dominic before the match. So the majority of this was a 2-on-1 match, the story being Rey trying to survive against Roode and Ziggler. So what did you think of that, sir?
First of all, I gotta give a shout out to Rey Mysterio's ring gear, because it was very much Batman inspired. And you know me.
Yes.
Spoiler alert. My two favorite, fictional characters of all time are the one that's on my chest, which is Superman, and Batman. Those and they're and just in case anybody wants me to choose, I ain't choosing. They're tied one A and one B. It's like asking me who goes higher on your Multiverse Wives list. Is it Margot Robbie or Alexa Bliss? Listen, depends on the day. I ain't choosing. It just, when I wake up in the morning, whichever one pops into my head, that's the one that's on top of the list. It's as simple as that. So I'm not choosing. But so to have Rey wearing, Batman, and it was very Neil Adams kind of Batman. So, 2 thumbs up to Rey for that design choice.
He's had a lot of comic-inspired ring gear in the past.
Yeah, I mean, he did the
Joker and the Flash.
And also, Alexa Bliss has done the wrestling thing. So, and she wasn't on this pay-per-view. So just a reminder, Alexa Bliss, you're on the list. Even if you do have that venom spew all over your face. Just don't bring Lily around because she creeps me out.
That is Can you imagine waking up in the middle of the night and seeing Lily on the nightstand?
I would probably, while Alexa was sleeping on Earth, I'm not going to disclose the Earth because that's a podcast episode in itself. I'd probably put it in the incinerator and get rid of it. But that's enough about Lily for now.
So back to the match. The way this was laid out was Rey surviving a lot of double teams, a lot of high impact moves that you were convinced he's going to go down. He's not going to make it. Yeah. There was one spot in particular, and I really appreciate this because it tells a good story. They were trying to get Rey counted out, and it looked like he almost got counted out. He made it back under the ropes at like 9 seconds and 3/4.
I don't know how he had the speed to get there. I mean, the ref delayed his count enough, but so if I was doing it, the ref would have to be like, nine.
Come on.
He's probably got him like, get in the ring, jackass. I can't hold this count for that long. Suspension of disbelief is already far gone.
Come over here. Come on. So the way this ends is Dominic, who is selling the injury, the obliques and the ribs, he comes to the ring. Ray is very hesitant as far as trying to tag him in because he's worried the way a father would be about a son.
Yeah.
Eventually, Dominic tags himself in and wins with the frog splash. Great storytelling here. Yeah. First time in history, we have a father-son tag champ duo.
Right. Awesome.
And they also mentioned Eddie Guerrero, Ray being his best friend. Eddie, who once tried to take custody of Dominic in a ladder match.
Okay, now, Eddie? Yeah. Now, my thing, so Dominic is, in fact, his real son, right?
Yes.
Now, was Dominic the actual kid that they used in that storyline?
I think so. I would have to go back and look that up.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that it was actually Dominic, though.
Okay. But yeah, no, I like this. I like this, father-son, historic kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. We've seen in the past second-generation superstars. There's kind of a mixed bag there. So I think they're trying to set Dominic up the best they can to succeed. So,
do you think eventually he'll turn on his father?
It could be. That's. I mean, we've seen that with Charlotte and Rick. So
I could see that at some point. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know they can't do an actual match there, but yeah, it's possible.
What, with Charlotte and Rick?
Yeah, I guess they could, but
listen, I don't put anything past Vince anymore.
Well, that's a good point.
He'd probably trot out poor Ric Flair at whatever age Ric Flair is, and say, "Yeah, you got one more match in you."
Yeah,
I'm surprised he still hasn't called the Undertaker back.
That's a good point.
I'm still waiting for him to call the Undertaker back.
Yeah, no, I think Taker's done. I mean, when you hear him be open for the first time in his career about the number of injuries that he's had and the severity, I think he's done.
I have a theory about Taker, and I'll say it in a bit. But just to go back to this, my favorite spot was, the frog splash was great, but the slide through the ropes.
Mm-hmm.
I think he went through. Ray went through. Was it through Ziggler, through the rope and onto Robert Roode, or was it through Robert Roode?
I think it was through Ziggler. I also like the at the end the way he took Ziggler out by doing that the sunset flip on the floor. Now that was dangerous.
Those are my two favorite spots. Yeah.
So what would you give this match?
I like this match a lot. I think it's a 4.5 out of 5.
Okay. I'm going to give it 3.5. I mean, it was hampered a little bit by the story that they were trying to tell, which was good. It didn't necessarily highlight all of Rey Mysterio's abilities, his high-flying abilities, but there's nothing wrong with that.
There was too much of him getting beat down for too long.
Right, and again, I have no problem with that. I definitely like that over what came next.
Oh.
So, after this match, we got our first look at and if you're listening to the audio version only of this, you cannot see me double facepalm. But there you go.
I've already done my version of The Undertaker rolling his eye. I can't do that.
Yeah.
That's my...
First look at the zombies, and that was the crossover with Army of the Dead. Right. Let me just say this.
I thought you were going to say Army Hammer. I'm like, wait, that's a these kind of zombie, but that's neither here nor there.
These kind of cinematic crossovers, like trying to integrate movie points and movie characters into a live wrestling show, that has never worked. It did not work in 1990 with RoboCop. It did not work on Nitro when Chucky argued with Rick Steiner, and it did not work here. Now, again, I don't have a problem with them cross-promoting here, but when you bring things like zombies onto a wrestling show, it's an illusion breaker.
Yeah.
So, and this might be the worst example of this, at least on a major wrestling show. I'm sure there are, indie shows that have done silly things like this, but never WWE before.
Yeah.
Not to this level. So.
Well, first of all, I think it's a waste of both The Miz and Damian Priest.
Yes.
I honestly think this rivalry in particular is played out. I mean, after the whole thing with Bad Bunny, it should have been over. Move. See, I think a guy like Damian Priest should be in a title picture somewhere. I don't know which title, but he should be in a title. This whole let me play midfield with The Miz over and over again, week in and week out. It's the same match ad nauseum over and over again, and it's literally for nothing.
Yeah, and that's the sad thing about the way WWE did this. Nobody's going to remember the finish of this match. And so you're wasting The Miz, who's a former world champion, and Damian Priest, who's an up-and-comer, and it really just didn't work.
Like, Damian Priest has already lost a match, correct?
He didn't lose this match.
No, but he lost a match already.
Yes,
right?
yes.
So it's not like they're trying to set up some sort of, he's on a winning streak, he's undefeated, like a Goldberg situation.
Right.
So there's no point in continuing this Miz thing rivalry. But like, it should have ended at WrestleMania when Damian and Bunny Boy there, the Easter Bunny, got the win, and it ended there. Again, I don't see why. And this goes to my frustration with every week on Raw. You're going to get a main event that consists of Bobby Lashley against Drew McIntyre, or Bobby Lashley against Braun Strowman, or Bobby Lashley against both Braun Strowman and Drew McIntyre. Instead, I don't know, why don't we can we have Damian Priest? He's
Good
somebody
point.
I could see challenging Bobby Lashley.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not saying I don't want to see Drew regain the title. I'm just saying you're watering that. If that's a pay-per-view match, if that's your big angle at SummerSlam, which I think it is, that by SummerSlam, Drew is going to regain the title. If that's your big angle, giving me that match every friggin' week, and then probably again a variation of it at Hell in a Cell, all you're doing is watering it down.
Mm-hmm.
It's like either give Drew the title or I don't care at this point.
Yeah.
So make better use of, like, here's another example. On Raw, they had Ricochet in the title spot.
Right.
Facing. If you're going to do that and then, Ricochet is going to go away for a few months, what was the point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, sometimes it works, like with Charlotte and Rhea, and sometimes it gets repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
Well, they could be setting up a situation to where Drew McIntyre's in a match with Bobby Lashley where he has to beat him, or he has to leave the show, or he leaves the title picture forever, something like that.
Right, but my point is get to it. But in the meantime, you could also, change up Raw every once in a while by having a Damian Priest challenge, even if it's in a non-title situation.
Sure.
It's better than seeing the same match every week. But anyway, so better use of Damian Priest is what I'm getting at. And this whole thing with the zombies, the worst part of it is the commentators trying to tell me that they're real zombies.
Yeah. And you could tell there at one point it looked like Michael Cole put his head in his hands. I think he was bemused trying to do this. So
it's and yes, some people will point to but look, the Undertaker character worked. Yeah, but there's at some point, when I wasn't 10 or 9, when once I got to the 8 or 10 range, here's the thing. I realized the Undertaker wasn't actually dead.
Yeah. I can buy the Undertaker. I can buy the Undertaker being a guy who's trying to wage psychological warfare on an opponent, which is what the Undertaker was.
But it's different. But when you're a kid, right? The illusion of essentially he's dead.
Yes. Yes.
He's a literal dead man. As a kid, you can buy that because your suspension of disbelief is better. If when I see the Undertaker the last couple of years that I've seen the Undertaker, it hasn't been, oh my God, he's actually a dead man walking. that wasn't it. That wasn't the allure of the character.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a different ball game. You can't compare The Undertaker to what this segment was.
No, I agree. And the thing is, I do believe there could have been ways to integrate the zombies in without trying to act like the zombies were actually there.
The only kind of situation where that kind of thing works is if you're doing something with the Fiend.
You could do something. Well, my idea was he could have had the lumberjacks come out. Nobody knows who they are. They're dressed as zombies, but they're not. We're not trying to pretend like they actually are zombies. One of them turns out to be Morrison, and he helps the Miz win. Something like that would have made some logical sense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I hear you. And then, like, the whole thing about, like, to me, my theory is, I'll just say it now because it works in, it's kind of sort of, since we brought up The Undertaker. I'm surprised WWE hasn't done Son of The Undertaker storyline. And I think you could do something. You know how they've sort of repackaged. What's the character's name? The guy with the tattoos that's married to Zelina Vega.
Oh yes, yes.
He's doing an angle now where he's recounting his childhood, and it's the book. He's got the Book of Darkness or whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
And every time they show those drawings, you see the guy with the hat, and he kind of looks like The Undertaker to me.
Yeah, I think didn't he come out on? He came out on SmackDown yesterday, and like interfered in the Fatal 4-Way for the IC belt.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet, but I think they could have done like a storyline where, you know, a Son of The Undertaker kind of storyline. I'd like to see.
Sure.
But trying to pass it off as, look, these people are literally dead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, back to the match. Damian Priest picks up the pinfall.
And the match was weak. It wasn't even, because all it was let's go beat up the zombies.
Yeah, well, and that was the worst part of it, is the fact that they kept interacting with the zombies as opposed to wrestling one another. And at least my perception of this was it was stunned silence from the crowd. Yeah. And the reaction that I saw online was extremely negative. So don't do that again.
It sucked. Plain and simple. It stunk.
Yeah.
If I want to see zombies, which I don't, because I'm not a fan of the genre, but if I did, I'd watch The Walking Dead.
Right. And I actually, Pat McAfee said that 2 zombies ate Morrison. So I'm like, okay. Anyway,
I hope they paid him good money to say that.
You know, pro wrestling, it's an opera about men and women athletes disputing some kind of personal grudge or going after a title. When you stray too far from that, things tend not to work. And I think that's
how Vince likes to call it sports entertainment? Mm-hmm. This match lost the sports angle.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to put it.
And it failed in the entertainment value because I didn't find it entertaining.
Exactly. So again, I don't have a problem with the crossover at all. In particular, the fact that it was Batista who was involved in that movie.
Now, can you imagine, Donnie? It would be the same thing. And here's how you know I'm sick of this kind of crap. Because I'm a DC fan, right? You know that. Everybody knows that.
Sure.
And if you don't, what show have you been watching for the last how many weeks? We've been doing this. But John Cena's doing Peacemaker, right?
Yes.
I don't want to see John Cena come out and wrestle in his Peacemaker outfit, for God's sake. And try to pass himself off as literal Peacemaker.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you remember, WWE did a crossover with the A-Team, the movie, and the guys came out, including Rampage Jackson, and acted like they were the characters from the movie. They did that on Raw once. So. Now,
I'll make an exception if you want to do a Harley versus Harley match and have Margot Robbie fight Alexa Bliss. Now we're talking something I can get behind, and I can be the special guest referee. You know, we'll have a conversation. But otherwise, keep this crap to a minimum.
Okay, there's a lot of jokes there, but we're going to keep it PG.
I mean, what if we have a Batman versus Superman match? We could have had Affleck and Cavill come out. We could have had Diane Lane be the special guest referee. Somebody could have said, Martha,
Why did you say that name?
And then the match could have been over. It would have been great. It would have been a draw.
Thank you for the setup.
Why didn't we do that? Enough of this garbage. Come on. Stop it.
Oh.
I'm going to rate this thing, and then we can move on. 0.
Well, I said 1. There were a few good moves in it, but it was drowned out by the silliness that WWE was trying here. So next up, we get Bayley versus Bianca Belair. And Bianca is massively over right now.
Oh, yeah.
So she brings out the SmackDown belt. By the way, I like her earrings. I don't know if you've seen those on social media. She has earrings that are replicas of the center plate of the WWE title.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, it's awesome. So the SmackDown belt, excuse me. So it was a good first pairing, I think, for Bianca because Bayley has a lot of heat with that character that she's doing. There were pluses and minuses here, more positives than negatives. I like that Bianca does a lot of holds. She doesn't just do big, high-power, isolated spots. She is improving with her ground game, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the downfall of a lot of modern wrestlers is that they want to do the big, high spots, and they never learn how to chain wrestle or tell a story. Yeah. She looks like she's trying to be that champion who does it all. So I definitely respect that.
Absolutely.
So there were a few spots that had a little bit of questionable timing, and I think that kept that from being a 5-star match because there was a lot of good exchanges. There was one in particular, Bayley did the roll up and tried to hold the ropes, and it looked like Bianca was going to get pinned. She kicked out of that. There was another spot where Bayley pulled her hair, and then Bianca threatened her with it the way she did with Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, where she whipped her.
I was waiting for the whip. I'm going to come on, whip her again. Whip her.
Yeah, yeah. No, I liked how the minute she threatened her, Bayley was like, okay. So, this was overall a really good match. I thought it was a great way to kick off Bianca's run as champion. So I'll give it 4 stars. And some of this, maybe the fact that Bayley hasn't gotten a lot of action in the last few months, that may be why there were a few spots that looked a little rusty. So, what did you think?
Overall, I like the match. I don't. Full disclosure, I'm not a fan of Bayley at all.
Okay.
I don't think I've ever liked any version of her character.
Okay.
So to see her lose to Bianca is very enjoyable to me. Plus, Bayley had the championship for over a year, so I don't necessarily want to see her with a title anytime soon. Again, the power game by Bianca is she's very strong. But to be fair, Bayley has some strength to her as well.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
There was a suplex on the outside, which I think was Bayley that delivered that, correct?
Yeah, and there were a lot of stiff spots in this as well. So
this show had a lot of suplex action going on. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I love the fact that they're using the hair as sort of like a benefit and a hindrance to Bianca. They're showing that it could be both. She's kind of like a Samson kind of character, that her hair is this mystical, kind of thing.
Do you think they'll ever do that angle where somebody actually cuts her hair off?
I mean, it's WWE. They've done things with hair all the time. So
yeah.
I think it's just a matter of time. Whoever beats her is probably going to have a hair versus hair match, and Bianca's going to have to cut off her ponytail, and she loses.
Yeah. That'll be sad. Just like when Andre the Giant got his head shaved when I was a kid. That would be sad. Because Andre had that. Andre had that big, full head.
I'm trying to think who they compare her with to do that.
Charlotte, Rhea.
Well, Rhea's got short hair. Charlotte maybe, or what's her name? Corey Graves' girlfriend there. Well, she hasn't done a lick of anything.
Oh, okay.
Carmella.
Okay.
I mean, she's been so underused.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, maybe, I mean, and it's funny, every time she comes out, it's like, oh, the first women's champ or whatever, the SmackDown women's or whatever. It's like, yeah, okay, that was what, 3-4 years ago?
Yeah.
What have you done with her since? Absolutely not. What is she known for now? Being Corey Graves' girlfriend. Wow, okay. And?
Yeah.
And she gave us the unfortunate individual that is Reginald.
I actually like how he's being used right now, but anyway.
I get it, but it's redundant. It's like, okay, can we, like, really?
So back to the match, I'm going to say 4 stars. I also want to say that I love the blue lipstick on Bianca. If I were a woman and I liked lipstick, that's the color I would wear.
Well, I mean, blue, leaf color, so you know.
Exactly. I was going to say the same thing because I like
the leaf. The belt is kind of leaf color too, blue and white, right?
I like the Leafs and I like the Wildcats. That's by, my college team in football and basketball, so I love the blue. So.
And also, I gotta say, Bianca Belair on the list.
There you go.
Unfortunately, Bailey, you're just not on the list.
So now is your time for a fictional station break. You're listening to the Multiverse Musings Vidcast on YouTube.
Yes.
There you go.
We cover everything from Green Lantern to He-Man.
There you go. Yes. Including the Emerald Echo podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's how Adam got me here.
Yeah. And then I wrote them into like 4 or 5 other podcasts. Like, so, Donnie, what about wrestling? And what about Ghostbusters? And
you better believe it, yeah.
What about Flash? And here we are.
All right, so next
I can't wait till the crossover with Ezra Miller's Flash.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the match they're going to do that one there. It's
All right, so let's stay on target here. As Porkin said, the WWE Championship, Bobby Lashley versus Drew McIntyre versus Braun Strowman. So it's really, it's hard to make big guys like Bobby Lashley and Drew McIntyre look small, but man, Braun Strowman's enormous. I mean, I know we already knew that, but when you see him in comparison to 2 other really huge guys and he's still big, it's amazing.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
He's impressive. And, I've always liked Braun. I think his time with the SmackDown Championship was too brief. Mm-hmm. I like seeing him in the title picture. I don't know if he'll ever win because it seems like they're, determined to put the title back on Drew.
Well, I remember a couple years ago when he was really over, when he was attacking Roman Reigns, he was really scary, and I thought the fans were really buying him as, a top-tier talent, but I didn't think WWE capitalized on that.
Like, he's the only one that I could see physically on the I mean, he's on Raw and Roman's on SmackDown, but physically, he's the only one that I could see challenging Roman.
Yeah, you could be.
I like Cesaro, and I would love for him to, spoilers, eventually win the championship. I just don't. I see Cesaro more as the Intercontinental Champion.
Sure.
Which is a belt I hope that he eventually gets, because I got to be honest with you, this whole angle with Apollo Crews, it's wearing thin on me.
Mm-hmm. Well,
this whole Bizarro Wakanda storyline that they got going, I'm not liking it.
Well, I've got to say, I want to see the Big E Roman Reigns program, but it doesn't look like they're going to get to that anytime soon.
Yeah, so. I don't understand. Like, Big E is another one. He's a big dude. He's powerful. I could see him going up again. Thank you for bringing up Big E. I can see it, but I don't think WWE is going to do it.
I hope they get to that eventually. I think it would be a good program. So, back to this match. I like the fact that early on you saw this alliance between Lashley and McIntyre trying to get, they did the double suplex and they tried to kind of eliminate Strowman, and it wouldn't last very long. Obviously, that eventually leads to Strowman hitting a dive off the ring apron, which was impressive. And there were no DQs here, so that's why you saw a lot of out-of-the-ring action. And you saw a couple suplexes on the ramp, or a couple spots on the ramp, one of which was a suplex. And this was close to being a 5-star match, too. There was a lot of great action. And I think it did make sense that, you had Bobby Lashley under a threat from the former champ in Drew McIntyre. On this pay-per-view, or whatever you want to call it, you had Lashley under a threat from not only that, but the enormous Braun Strowman. And so that did put Lashley in a precarious position story-wise. But, they battled back to the ring. McIntyre, he hit Strowman with, and this was really impressive, the Michinoku driver. I wasn't sure that he could do that on Braun, but he did.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Yeah, and to do it safely, I mean, that's a lot of man to pick up like that and then maneuver into that position. So
that was probably just because of the sheer size of Braun. That might have been my favorite spot.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can pick up and do that to Braun, you deserve all the props in the world. Well, I mean, he's got to be willing to assist you in whatever way he can, but you still got to have the strength and wherewithal to be able to do that.
Yeah, to maneuver around what is he, 380 or whatever?
I mean, Braun can jump up in the air all he wants to assist me, but I try that. I'm going to pull a groin, pull a back, pull every part of my body. So I can't do crap like that.
Right.
But so good on Drew for
Yeah.
And Drew is an impressive. I like Drew. I like Drew as champion. I'm not saying don't eventually give him back the title, but my point going back to earlier was it's just the same match every week on Raw, and when you get to the pay-per-view or the Peacock pay-per-view, there
you go.
It loses.
That's a good name.
It loses its luster. You know what I mean? If you see the same match every week on regular TV, and then you get to see the same main event on subscriber TV, which is Peacock, why would I do that? You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? No, so that's what I was getting at before.
Redundancy. You're saying that, at this point you like to see Lashley move on. I get it. So I did like how this ended, though. They did this kind of time-honored storyline that you see with triple threats, in that Lashley was out of the picture for a while. And so you had McIntyre and Strowman trading big moves back and forth.
And what a way to go out of the picture, because he got thrown in or speared into the the
LED lights. Now I'll get back to that when we rate the match here, but there was a point where Braun and Drew were going back and forth, and that was building the drama that Lashley might lose the belt nowhere near the ring.
Yeah.
But then eventually McIntyre hits Strowman with the Claymore, but before he could go for the pin, Lashley hits the ring, throws McIntyre out, hits Strowman with a big spear, and picks up the win.
Yeah.
Which was, like I said, I just thought that was a really excellent ending to this. So.
And Lashley delivers, when he delivers that spear, like it looks like it hurts. Mm-hmm. He's very visceral and violent when he delivers it.
Yeah, make no mistake, if Bobby Lashley really got mad and tried to hurt somebody, then I have no doubt that he could. So he's done MMA before. So
I wouldn't want to piss him off.
No.
Now, Donnie, wouldn't this be a cool match? They kind of did it with Edge, but here's my pitch. Mm-hmm. Do a champion versus champion match between Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley, and it's a spear versus spear match.
Interesting, yeah.
I'd do it. Who has the better spear?
That's a good point. Who has the better spear?
That's what that match would determine.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I'm suggesting that because I don't want to see what I think WWE is actually going to do at some point, which is going to be Bring Lesnar back and give him the title.
Oh, no. That's the one. Yeah, I don't want to see that either. So, the only thing I'll say, this was another match that I thought had at 1.5-star potential, but it gets downgraded just a little bit because the spots with the LED lights, you could see the LED, the walls moving back and forth, but the guys were still trying to sell, even though it obviously was not hurting them. So that took me out of the illusion a little bit. So I'm going to say 4.5 stars. So a lot of great work from all three guys. And I'm in full support of Bobby Lashley keeping the belt at this point because, again, at 44, you got to think that the clock's ticking, but he's doing amazing work.
I'd keep him on it. I'd keep it on him as long as possible. I'd almost go to next WrestleMania.
Oh, yeah. It could. I mean, like I said, the guy's at the top of his game right now.
Because once he drops it, he's not getting back in the picture.
You could be right. Yeah.
So
what would you rate the match?
I'd give it a 4.5 as well. I love the way they're building up Bobby in the sense that who can stop this guy? Arguably, the two biggest guys on Raw couldn't defeat him. So who's it going to be?
Yeah, making him look very strong. I like it.
And that's why my fear is cue Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. I definitely don't want to see that. So.
Because we know Vince has a hard-on for bringing back Brock.
All right.
And normally I should like a guy named Brock because Eddie Brock,
right.
ban him, but I just don't.
Well, Lesnar's one of the all-time greats, and I loved him in his prime. But I mean, we saw him for what 18 years. At some point,
I don't want to see Hulk Hogan come back and win a championship. I love, I'm a Hulkamaniac for life. I did both. See what I did there? I did both gimmicks in one shot. Right. But as much as I love the guy, I don't want to see him come back and wrestle another match. Yep. It's
I don't think you're going to see Hulk. I mean, he was limping pretty noticeably at WrestleMania. So
no, he's done.
Yeah,
and that's fine. I can watch his matches anytime I want.
Right,
which is cool. But so I don't. And again, I'm not saying. Obviously, there's an age discrepancy between Hulk Hogan and Brock Lesnar. I'm just saying I think his time is past, and the thing I'm really sick of is part-time champion. And when what I got to give to Bobby is, even though it's the same match every week, he's on Raw every week. Mm-hmm. He's defending. He's fighting.
As is Roman. Both Bobby and Roman have been guys that they've been staples of their shows, and they're bringing you good content every week.
When Brock is there, he may be on Raw, and if he is, chances are it's just an interview spot, right? And Heyman is doing the talking. So when he's there, because Lesnar and the promos are like, saying 1 + 1 = 5, and they don't go well together. He just, as much as I appreciate what he did in the past, and God bless him, he's married to Sable, so good on him. I got a fist bump for that because Sable is on the Hall of Fame list. But see, I don't even have to set it up anymore. It's just a quick flick of the thumb and we'll move on. But no, so I commend him for all that, but I've had enough, and so I don't want to see that. It would tarnish what Bobby Lashley's accomplished. If the end game is, well, let's just have a triple threat with him, Drew, and Brock, and put Brock over.
Yeah, I definitely would not want to see Brock go over Bobby Lashley at this point. So, all right, so shall we move on to the main event of the show, and that would be Cesaro versus Roman Reigns for the Universal title.
Yeah, and
this was, in many ways, the opposite of what we saw with the zombie match. This was vintage professional wrestling. Yeah. Amazing efforts out of both guys. So,
I mean, and I got to give Roman credit because, he's a big man. He's, power moves. He's got
a great beard.
That too. But no, like he just, and yet he's able to adapt to his opponent. And actually have a proper technical wrestling match, and you gotta give props to that.
Yes.
And conversely, Cesaro's got the power game too.
Oh yeah, Cesaro is one of those guys who he's not the biggest guy, but he has the strength of the biggest guys. I mean, he is amazingly strong.
Yeah.
So I like that we saw early on, some back and forth wrestling, and we saw Cesaro get a couple advantages on Roman, and Roman slips out of the ropes, and he tries to like regroup. Mm-hmm. And everything Roman does right now with his facial expressions and his body language tells a story. He's really improved from the time he became the centerpiece of the company. He's really tried to keep improving, and I really respect that. So Reigns got back in the ring. He tried to fire things up. He pinned Cesaro in the corner for a while, and Cesaro fights his way out. He hits the springboard uppercut and tried to put Reigns into the Cesaro swing. But after throwing him out of the ring, and I mean Reigns threw Cesaro out, this is where we saw the story for this match. Cesaro hit his right arm and clutched at it. And that storyline would build for the rest of the match, that his arm got progressively worse, and it affected his ability to wrestle. So I really appreciated that.
They really do know how to sell the injury. Yes, I agree.
And I liked the camera work was good here too, because there were several near falls where Cesaro was almost out. He'd get out, and Roman gave him like this predatory glare, and the cameras would like hone in on that. They would give you this tight close up, and you could see this kind of, really nasty alpha male predator look coming from Roman. And that's what I mean about him being able to tell a story with everything he does. He's not just a guy who gets in there and does moves. He wants to give you a story.
Absolutely. And what I think really sold is the trash talking, where he's like,
he's like, yeah, I live for this. I love wrestling.
You're not me. He's like, you can't do it. Midnight. It's great. It adds to the. And again, I think a lot of people were in that phase of booing Roman when he was the good guy. But I like Roman in both roles. I think he works both as a babyface and a heel. So I'm good with him, and I'm glad he's finally getting. I mean, these boos are the actual kind of boos you want.
Mm-hmm. It's not we don't want to see you wrestle. It's we want to see you eventually get beat because you're such a jerk, and that's good.
Right, and that's a good version of the boos, which means so. I'm glad he's getting the recognition finally, because I think fans were a little too harsh on him.
Yeah, he was able to finally.
At the same time, WWE did overpush him at one point.
No, I agree.
They tried to make it happen too fast. You know what I mean?
And he wasn't quite ready, but he has improved, and now you see why he's in the position he's in.
Yeah.
So I like, back in the match, we see that, Cesaro eventually got a second win, hits Roman with a series of uppercuts, hits him with the big boot. He tries to soften up Roman's legs, eventually goes for the sharpshooter. Roman gets out. Roman sells very well, by the way. I mean, right. It sounded like he had fire ants crawling over him when he was selling that. But you saw that as things continued, Cesaro was less able to use the injured arm.
Yeah.
And there was one point even when Cesaro had like the yes lock on, and it looked like Roman was going down, but he grabbed that arm and was able to power that arm away because Cesaro seemed to have some numbness in it.
They did make it seem, I got to be honest with you, there were times where I felt trapped to the storyline and thought Roman might lose. Like in my rational, headspace, I knew. Look, it's not a big, stream per view scenario. It's not like SummerSlam or anything like that. So Roman is probably not going to lose. But there were times when I forgot that logic and like, oh my God, he could actually lose.
Yeah.
And that goes credit to both performers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like I said, I really like the end of the match of Roman eventually wearing Cesaro down. You had this nice exchange where, again, Roman, what for a while was in the sharpshooter, and eventually he gets out of that. He locks Cesaro in the guillotine choke. Cesaro is able to get out of that initially, lock him in the sharpshooter again, transitions to the crossface, and that's when, like I was talking about, Roman was able to grab the injured arm and pull himself free. And he eventually gets Cesaro back in the guillotine. And Cesaro nearly gets out again. Like he picks him up and does the slam, but Roman's able to lock it back in. And eventually Cesaro is out.
Yeah. And I like the finish because both guys remain strong.
Mm-hmm. And give credit to Cesaro. After he was choked out, he woke up in a realistic way to like sell it. If you've ever seen, sometimes boxers will get knocked out, or you'll see MMA fighters, they get knocked out and they come back to life, and they're disoriented and they're kind of flailing wildly. Yeah. That's what he did. Was he sold that?
Yeah. I did like that. Yeah. And then of course we saw Jey Uso come out and attack Cesaro.
Yeah. Well, out comes Jey Uso. He does the the ceremony to put the lay over Roman Reigns.
Roman,
acknowledge him as the head of the table. Then out comes Seth Rollins, aka Rainbow Raider. He comes out, and then we have you like that one, huh?
Yeah, that was good.
So then we have International Beatdown Cesaro Day because Roman, he gives Jey Uso the head nod. He goes after Cesaro. He beats him down, and Seth Rollins comes out. And that, at least for me, that's how the show ended. It went off the air with Seth Rollins administering a beating to Cesaro. So,
all right, now again, my question is, how does this benefit Cesaro? Like, haven't we exhausted the whole Cesaro versus Seth thing?
Well, I wonder if they're building up to, something like a cage match at WrestleMania. I mean, at SummerSlam. Something big.
Again, I see that. But to me, Cesaro is really over right now.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Now, again, it doesn't have to be the Universal title. Put him in a feud with Bizarro Black Panther.
Yeah.
Like, give him the IC title. To me, I'm sorry, I just don't buy, and I don't think anybody cares about this angle. Nobody cares about Apollo Crews as the Intercontinental Champion. Nobody. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to see. Again,
I like what Crews is doing. I just somewhat.
It's like either give it to Big E, or move on from this, or give him another opponent. To me, I think, again, I wouldn't mind if Cesaro got the Universal Championship. I don't think that's the angle they're going to go. I could be wrong. I see him as the perennial Intercontinental Champion. Like, he fits that mold perfectly. Give him now that he's had the run with Roman. Give him a run with Apollo. Like, if you're not going to do the Big E thing, honestly, Donnie, I'll tell you what. If Big E doesn't have that Intercontinental Championship by the end of SummerSlam, then they need to move on from that storyline.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think they are. Like I said, after SmackDown, I think they are, if you see that show.
Yeah. So,
5-star match for me. That was definitely the best match of the show.
Absolutely 5 stars, for sure. I agree. Like I said, I hope this isn't the end for the push for Cesaro, because I really think that man deserves the championship. Mm-hmm. He's got the whole package in terms of He's got a character that people are rooting for. He's got a good muscular body type. He's big, powerful, and he can wrestle in ring. Mm-hmm. And I think he deserves a championship.
Yeah, the springboard uppercut is amazing, but at the same time, Roman is in such a zone right now. I don't see WWE going away from him as champion.
No. I mean, I'm not saying Roman. That's why I think him in the IC spot. See, I would transition Big E eventually to the championship picture, and Cesaro to the Intercontinental picture, because
that's a good idea.
I can believe Big E beating Roman at some point. Mm-hmm. I can believe that.
And I think the crowd would like that, even if it was just a short reign. So
yeah.
So I guess that's all for this edition.
That's all, folks. We created the. I'm not going to do Porky Pig impression, but I mean, overall, like I said, aside from that abomination of the zombie thing, it was a solid stream per view. And
Peacock per view. I like that.
Yeah, Peacock per view. That's the new terminology. And next up, we've got Hell. What is it? Hell?
I don't remember what they said was the next big event, pay per view, whatever. It could be.
Oh yeah, something. Anyway, we'll be back to cover that in a month's time or so. Mm-hmm. So. If you like professional, and we'll do some AEW too. We're gonna work that into. So if you like professional wrestling, like and subscribe.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely
to our YouTube channel, because you're gonna get a lot more professional wrestling content. Mm-hmm. And share it with your friends and spread the word. And if you want to talk about WWE or AEW with Donnie or I, you can do that on social media. So Donnie, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter as the Emerald Enthusiast. Let's talk pro wrestling. Let's talk comics. Let's talk Green Lantern.
Fantastic. And if you want to find me, you can on Twitter at Adam_LeafsFan. We have the Twitter page for the podcast network, which is at MMNPDC. We have a Facebook group, which will be in the description below. Click it, I'll add you, and we can continue the conversation there. Until next time, remember that WrestleMania Backlash is forever. From the first stupid gimmick with the zombies to the last. So long, everybody.
So long, everyone.